Flosstube. This is Sandy and this is my channel Stitching with Sandy. Today is Sunday, November 27th, 2022, and I'm coming to you live from my house while I'm decorating my tree for Christmas. I thought I would do an ornament extravaganza, and before I put them all up on the tree, I can share what I've stitched over the past. I have a couple of ornaments that people have stitched for me. So sit back, have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and get your stitching because there's a lot of them. And I hope you enjoy it. If by any time throughout this video you find an ornament that I didn't tell much of because maybe I don't remember, you can ask me and I will look it up and get that information for you. Most of them I remember, but there are a few that I might not remember where they came from. But I can look them up because I did write them down. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to start with the ones that I've completed this year so far, and I am still stitching, so I'm sure I'll have more to share. But this year I was part of the Just Cross Stitch 2021 magazine ornament edition sale, and so ahead of time some ladies from last year voted on some ornaments in that magazine to work on throughout this year. There's 12 total. And I started out well. One of them I ended up making into a pillow, so I don't have that one to show you. But I didn't end up completing them all. Time got by me, and some of them were not things that I was interested in, and so I just put it off and didn't do it. So I'll show you what I have. So here's the first one. And this is by, I believe, a Little Stitcher or Little Stitcher. And so I stitched that one. And this one's stitched on 14 count Ada, and I believe it's vintage Country Mocha. And I just finished it as a pillow and put a little heart on the back. I love it. And then this one was one that I did when Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop was interviewing Heart and Hand Cecilia Turner, and she gifted an ornament pattern for that event, and this is it. So I just mounted it on a little wooden tag that I painted white, and then I just added some extra baker's twine and some ribbon and a little poinsettia just for decoration. And I stitched this throughout the interview. It was so much fun to watch. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it because it's on her Fat Quarter Shop's YouTube video channel. And then this one, I don't remember who the designer is, but again, this is from that Just Cross Stitch magazine 2021. And I did the snowman. And it might be a Doreen Jones. I'm not 100% sure. But if it's something you're curious about, I can look at my magazine and let you know. And this one, I did a little bit of changes. It was stitched on white, but I thought white on top of white didn't really show. So I did a darker blue and brightened it up a little bit. And then I just finished it on some mounting board and some sticky board and just some fabric and rick rack, and then just a little bow. And then this one you saw my last Flosstube. This was from the Christmas Rules by Primrose Cottage stitches. I had started the sale like everybody else and realized that my fabric was too small. So I ended up having to toss it. So before tossing it, I decided to turn a lemon into lemonade, and I used some fusible interfacing, and I put it on the back, and then I cut it, and then I was able to carefully sew it together into a pillow finish ornament. And that's what I did for that one. Then another one from the Just Cross Stitch magazine was this one. This one I stitched exactly the way they had charted it. It's cute, but I wish it had a little bit more designs in it. But I like it, and I turned it into a tag finish. I cut my own tag out of mounting board. I just cut it myself and then put it together. And this one's on 14 count. It's like a blue clouds. I think it's a fabric flare. All right, and then the last one from Just Cross Stitch was this barn one, and it has a little cow. I love this one. I love the finish too. I think it's super cute. And I used an antique bell that I found at the vintage antique shop in the city next to mine. And I love it. I think it came out so cute. All right, so those are the ones that I have done so far for this year. So let me show you the ones from my box. I had to pull it out. We started decorating. We like to put on our Santa hats and some Christmas music. And I have my new shirt. It says, "Have a Merry Little Christmas." Sorry. And it gets you in the mood. And then we started decorating. So we've got some stuff done, but we still have a lot more to do. Usually our family doesn't decorate until December 1st, but I wanted to get this Flosstube in before my next Flosstube video because we'll be going to Jingle Ball and before my next Flosstube, so I figured I'd have a lot to share from that. So that would make the video extremely long, and I didn't want to keep you that long. All right, so this next one is a Stitch with the Housewives. It's one of her snow patterns. I love it. I think it's so cute. I stitched it on 14 count black Aida, and then I used some snowflake fabric and some pom-poms to look like snowballs. And then this is a little beaded pick that I picked up at Hobby Lobby, and it looked like a little icicle balls. And then I just used a button, snowflake button, to finish it off at the top and at the bottom. All right, then the next one. This one is either Country Cottage Needleworks or Little House Needleworks, but I think it's Country Cottage. And it's this little snowman. It says it's cold, it's snow cold. And I finished it on a sweater. I went to the thrift shop and picked up a white cabled knit sweater, and then I cut off the sleeves and I used it to mount several of my snowman ornaments. Now my snowman ornaments go up at Christmas, but then I leave them out for the month of January too, because I change out my decorations to be all snowy type things. Living in California, especially Southern California, we don't have snow, so a girl can dream, and so I decorate my house like that. So here's this one. This was stitched on, I believe, 14 count vintage country mocha as well. And here's another one done on a sweater finish. And I believe this is a homespun elegance ornament. I love her ornaments. She does a different snowman each year, and I would go on 1, 2, 3 Stitch and order a whole bunch of them and then stitch them up. And there's a lot more that I haven't purchased yet to do, but I plan to, and I have a couple more in my stash that I'll stitch up. But this one, I love this little pick. I got it at Hobby Lobby, and it looks like icicles on a branch. Thought that was very appropriate for this snow picture. And then the pattern came with this little charm for the birds. This is Joy. All right, and my next one, this I believe is another Country Cottage Needleworks, also finished on a sweater. And it says Love is in the Air. I think that's the name of the title of the pattern too. And then again with the same picks. For this one, I used a accordion that was gifted to me by my husband's cousin. She cleaned out her garage with lots of craft supplies from both her and her mother and sent them to me. So I made use of them. All right, and my next one, this is a homespun elegance, another snowman with another sweater. This is a different type of sweater, and I just did it a different direction. So you can see that the cable before I did up and down, and then this one I decided to turn it side by side for a different look. It is a different sweater. They're so much fun to use. You can use all of the sweater. The sleeves are the easiest because you can literally pull them right over your mounting board, and that makes it easier to use, but you can use the other pieces too. I've used both. When I do that, sometimes I will lace the back of the sweater prior to putting on a backing just to hold it nice and taut so that it doesn't get loose and look sloppy on my ornament. I love this one. Cardinals are my favorite. My son Wesley lives in Missouri, and when he first moved there, he sent me pictures. I asked him, do you see any cardinals there? Because we don't see any here, and I know it snows over there. And so one year he sent me a video of a couple cardinals that flew into the trees that didn't have any leaves. The leaves were all fallen. We call those naked trees. And he sent me a video of it, and it was so beautiful. So now every year when this time of year happens, when he sees it, he sends me either a video or some pictures. So now I find myself drawn to stitching ornaments that have lots of cardinals in it because it reminds me of him. All right. And this one, I'm trying to think. I think this one's a little house. I could be wrong, but it's another cardinal one. I stitched this one last year for Wesley, and did a pillow finish. Used some baker's twine and a cardinal button at the top. And here's my back. Little tip, these are little die cuts from Stampin' Up! And if you put some fusible web on the back of the fabric prior to using the die cutter, then you run them through the die cutter and it'll come out. Then you can just iron them right over your little sewn mark for stuffing, and they work really, really well. All right, next one. This one I believe is a heart and hand, and wish you joy. Yeah, wishing you joy. And I love polar bears, my favorite animal. So when I saw this one, I had to stitch it. And I love the plaid. It went so nicely with this design. I was very excited about it. I love to stitch on blue. This particular one is 28 count Monaco, and I coffee tea dyed. No, I didn't coffee tea dyed it. I dipped it in Rit dye, and I believe this is I believe it's denim blue. I believe it's denim blue. If not, it's evening blue. I have both of them, but I think it's denim blue. All right. And then this one is a fun ornament that I did. So Stitching with the Housewives, Priscilla Blaine, she and Chelsea like chickens. I'm not a fan of chickens, but I am a fan of their patterns. And she had given away 2 free patterns, I believe. I think one was for Chelsea's birthday and one might have been a Christmas gift. I'm not sure, but they're on her blog, so you can still access them, but it won't look like this ornament. One is, I think it's called Chicken Joy, and I'm trying to think what the other one is. I can't remember, but what I did is, since it had, one had a chicken decorating a Christmas tree and one had a snowman holding a chicken leash, I believe. Anyways, I took the chickens out and merged them. So here's the snowman, there's the tree. I merged them together and made this ornament. And the way I merged it, honestly, I did it old school. What I did was I copied out the patterns, then I cut them and I laid them right on top of each other so that I could make it into one. So I laid the snowman and his little hat right on top of the tree, and then the snow was already like this on the patterns, so that was easy to line up. I think it turned out great. I was really excited about it. It made a whole new ornament all over. So sometimes when you don't like chickens, it's easy to adjust the pattern, or if there's something you don't like in the pattern, you can take it out or change it. And so I try to do that if I'm not happy with something. And I'm really pleased with how this one turned out. This is stitched on 14 count black Aida. All right, so then last year was my grandson's first Christmas, so I started making him an ornament. I plan to make him one each year. I didn't get to see him last year, so stitching this brought me joy because it gave me time to think about him and know that one day when he sees this ornament, he'll think about Grandma. And so this one is a Lizzie Kate, my first Christmas ornament. There were 2 in there, and then trying to figure out how to turn it into a heart shape was a little challenging, but you can see that I labeled it Luca. That's his name, and it was last year, and I'm going to be starting the one for this year, and I think I'm going to do the Prairie Schooler one of the year he was born. So I love this one. I finished it with some green cording and then some green plaid fabric on the back. And I'm really excited how it turned out. This is stitched on 28 count Monaco coffee tea dyed. All right, then this one I believe is a heart and hand. I did a lot of the heart and hand Merry Mini ornaments, so this is one of them. And this is Silent Night. I like the owl. I thought it was super cute. And I mounted it twice so that I could put cording and then rickrack. And then I just used these little picks that I picked up. I believe these picks I got at Michael's. And there's the back. All right, so I have a couple ornaments. I still have more that I made, but I have a couple sitting here on top, and I'm gonna go through them. They were gifts for me years ago, and if you think about this, if you were on the computer at that time, when AOL was a big thing, I had an AOL account, and I was able to reach out and meet cross-stitchers all over the United States, kind of like we do now with our Flosstube or Instagram. But at the time, there was a small group of us that there were little chat rooms you could go in, and I went into Christmas cross-stitching, and they decided to do a swap, and so everybody had to make an ornament for somebody, and the person in charge picked out who they were, and they sent them on to us. So I don't know where these ones came from, but they are cute, and I still hang them every year, so I thought I'd share them in case it inspires you to finish a certain way. All right, so this one was one of those little plastic frames. Back then, it was a big deal to, so it was in 1998, it was a big deal to me to have teddy bears. I had teddy bears everywhere. I was a big Boys Bear and Cherished Teddy collector, and so I had lots of teddy bear ornaments. So this one was made for me, and it's, if by any chance your name is V, let's say V, I think it's V Thompson. If that's you and you made this for me, well, look at, I still have it and I still love it. All right, and then the next one, this person didn't sign them, so I don't know who they came from, but I also have always had a big yearning to be a quilter, and I've done a little bit of quilting, but I don't really know that much. And most classes for quilting are offered during the day when I'm at work. So it may be a while before I become an expert quilter, but in the meantime, I'm still beginning. Well, I liked it even back then, so one stitcher made me these cute little ornaments with the idea of quilting in mind. She knew I liked them so much. So I hang these every year up on my tree too. All right, and then I got this one. I was in several swaps. I told her, go ahead and sign me up with more than one, because I have always been a fast stitcher and people kept dropping out. So I said, oh, I'll do it. So here's another one that I received. I'm not sure where it came from, but I thought it was sweet. And they hung a little extra string to hang the snowflake so it dangles. That was clever. Just a little pillow back. And this one, I think this was genius. Like, to make a swap, or even if you were going to like a Christmas retreat, this would be easy to make as a gift. So I'm going to show you it. There's a little sign on the back. Here's the ornament. Let me show you first. Here's the ornament. And while it doesn't look like stitching, I'm going to show you how it is. So here is the piece, and you can see they made a little tiny pin cushion, and you can see the beginning of stitching. They even left the needle and thread in it. I think that's so cute. They picked up the little wooden chair. I think it was like in a miniature section of their store, and turned it into a little ornament. And then the sign they made says, went online back in 20 minutes. Isn't that the cutest? And I love that. Every year when I take it out, it makes me giggle, because I remember answering the telephone. I'm sorry, I was online today. I didn't get your message until later. So that one reminds me of that. All right, so I think the rest of them, except for maybe one or two will pop up as they come along, are ornaments that I stitched. So I also did, probably in 2000, I want to say probably in 2000, 6. I think I stitched these. These were in a dimensions kit, I believe. And I didn't end up doing all of them. I don't even know where the kit is now. But last year I had found the ornaments, the stitched ornaments in a baggie. They were never FFO'd, so I finished them last year. So they're little teddy bear ornaments. Came as a kit. I think there was maybe 6 ornaments in there, but here's one. This one I had stitched because it reminded me of my Wesley. He was a huge train enthusiast when he was little. That was his favorite thing, trains. So I made this one with him in mind, and then I backed it there, and I used some more of that extra ribbons that came from my husband's cousin, and then I finished the other 2 the same. So there's one, it's a drum, and I made that one for Vincent. And I think these are like, I think not 2006, it was probably about 2004 because I didn't have Trevor yet. And then I stitched this one for me. And those are the 3 ornaments, and I tried to finish them all the same so that they would go together. I love them. All right, next up, this one is a Joan Elliott. I believe it came from one of the cross stitch magazines. Might have been Cross Stitch Crazy or World of Cross Stitch, and it's by Joan Elliott. And I made this one in 2008. All right. And then these 2 are Joan Elliott's too. I used to stitch a lot of her patterns. Someone asked me recently in one of the questions, would I ever stitch full coverage? Well, the answer is probably not. I've tried several times. I started with, there was a pattern of some horses running from the ocean, but they were made of the waves. I started that because my husband loves horses. And I believe when we were dating, I was like, oh, I'm gonna stitch this for him. Yeah, that didn't last. In fact, I don't know where it is, but I think I spent a month on it and hardly had any progress to show. It seemed like hardly anything at all. And so I got kind of bored with it and I put it down, and I have not picked it up since. And then again, I tried another project. It was a kit that I bought when we visited Solving. There used to be a little needlework shop there, and the lady that owned it bought a lot of models for her store, and so she would have the models, and you would models everywhere you go, of every inch of wall space there. And then on the tables were all of the kits that you could buy that match those models. So the one I picked was, I'm sure you've seen it, but it was a little cabin in the woods, and it was called Northern Lights. So I started that. I did the cabin, and I started to do around the cabin, and then eventually I got bored and I put it down. And again, it's probably in my garage since we moved here. I haven't unpacked everything, and I'm imagining it, that's where it is. I never finished it. And I don't really have an urge to finish it. Now these next ornaments, the reason why I mentioned it is they're kind of full coverage, but they're not massive. So something like this is not so bad, but I have to give props to anyone who can stick it out to stitch a full coverage, because I just don't seem to be interested in doing that. But this is from Joan Elliott. I believe these were also in a Christmas magazine. So there's this one. I loved the gold krynic on the side. I think it's so pretty. There's a little bit of white krynic inside for the snow, but it's not picking up on the camera. And then here's its partner. So you can see that these are the 2, they go together. I just love them. I think they're so pretty. It looks like a little photograph to me of the village. And so I like them, but again, that's probably as much full coverage as I will ever do. All right, next up, this could be Little House or Country Cottage. I always get them mixed up, but I love them, so I do a lot of their patterns. And this was a popular one a couple years ago. Everybody was stitching it, Fa La La, and you can still get it. And I believe I did it on Picture This Plus Jade, because I love that fabric. It's so pretty. All right. And the next one, also by them, is Mary Mary, also on jade. And I made these two to go together. So there's the front and there's the back. Kind of reminded me of those Christmas candies, the little candy ribbons, this fabric, and I thought it would go well with them. All right. Next up, this one comes from the Just Cross Stitch Ornament Edition, and this is from 2014. And I know that because today I was cleaning out the drawer that has those magazines in there, and I saw it on the cover. And so this one was finished on some sweater material as well. And this one, actually, when I had first stitched it, I was stitching it for a swap, and then the person never did theirs and messaged me that she wasn't going to have time to complete it, so please not send it. So I was like, oh, well, I would still send it to you, but she insisted that I didn't send it because she said it would make her feel bad that she didn't fulfill her obligation. So I kept it, and last year I FFO'd it. All right. And this one, my friend PJ is stitching right now. I think she's doing it with a group as a SAL. And this is it. And it might be called, it's an all dolled up, and I think it's called Flake or Flaky, Mr. Flake maybe. I love this one. And I added beads on the tree. I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, little beads. I love this one. And I stitched this one on a gray, and I believe it's like a ice gray or something. I think I picked it up at Hobby Lobby, but I thought it was cute. He's sweet. And then again, there's that same pick that I did on the other one, and some of the twine, and the same snowflake fabric on the background. All right. All right, so then this one, I stitched, my first son was born in 1993, and so I stitched this ornament for him. Oops, there's a little fuzz hanging out the bottom. All right. And this one is stitched on, I believe it's linen. I can't tell you where it came from because it was so long ago. This was in one of those Leisure Arts mini ornaments, I believe. And when I saw it, I stitched it for his first Christmas ornament. My goal is that my boys will have all their ornaments so that they can decorate their own home. But so I'll have to give them up eventually, but not ready to give them up yet. I'm sending them all of their Hallmark ornaments and stuff, but I kept their first Christmas stitched ornament. I think I'll give it to them later. And this one, oh, I'm sorry. Now that I look at it, this one was in 95 for Wesley. This one is for 93 Vincent. And the reason why is because Vincent, we had struggled to have him. And when I was trying to deliver him, they kept asking me to push. Well, they got him stuck in my pelvic bone. And it took a long time to get him out. So I had to have an emergency cesarean. And of course, then I had to have a spinal block because the epidurals weren't working. So they put me in a spinal block, and I wasn't even able to see him until the next day because I was knocked out afterwards. And then as he got older, we always called him our little angel boy because he survived. And of course, he's a grown man now, has his own son, but this is his. And so then this one in 95, when Wesley was born, this is the one I made for Wesley. So, and I want them to both be hearts, and it's perfect because then Lucas is a heart too. How cute. I'll have to remember that. Unfortunately, I did not do a baby's first Christmas for my younger three. I know that sounds bad. It's kind of like photographs. You take a million pictures of your first few kids, and then the last kids you do, but you don't print them out like you do the first ones, or you scrapbook one and you don't scrapbook the others. Well, mine are kind of like that too. All right, this is an ornament that somebody had gifted me in one of the exchanges. I believe this exchange was in 2012. I did do some more exchanges when I got on Facebook, and I found a couple of exchange groups. So this one's probably from that one. And she just made it, looks like a little rug, and she just covered it with some felt. It was an easy way to make a backer, and some little gold twine, and it looks like a little bell pull, and she fringed the bottom. So I think that's cute. And then here's one, somebody stitched on perforated paper, and this one is like silver perforated paper. I don't know if you can still buy that now, but she just did a long stitch on this. The whole thing's long stitched, and then cut it out carefully. So I think that was an early variegated floss, and the floss kind of feels like pearl cotton. It's not DMC for sure. And then because she did such a good job stitching it, either side looks pretty, so she didn't put it back on the backer. So that one's cute. And then this one is from Marjorie Schmardebeck. She actually lived here in California, well, don't you know? And she made me this little mini ornament, and she used some little lace ribbon to border it. I think that's very cute. So it's not a real ornament. I mean, it's not a real stocking. You can't put something in it. But luckily she did put her name on here so that all these years later I know who made it for me. I think it's so sweet. All right, now this one was another one of those little frames. It pops out every year, it pops out. So if I can figure out how to revamp it, I might. But this one says, "'Tis the season to be jolly." It's in one of those little ornament frames that you used to be able to buy these, I think, at Walmart. Sometimes you would get a magazine and it would have a little ornament like this as a kit for you, but that's what she sent me. I'm sure it's from '98, the same year those others at the beginning were. All right. Sorry, didn't mean to put my finger in your face. There was a little message on there. All right, this one came out last year by Liz Matthews. She gave a freebie out. I think it was with her celebrations, a year of celebrations freebie patterns that you got in her newsletter. And it had pennies, little penny stitches all the way around it. I didn't care for them, so I just stitched it like this. And this was a scrap piece of fabric that my friend Melissa gave me. And she said, see if you can do something with it. So I turned it into an ornament. And I love how it turned out. All right, and then this one is a Lucy Heaton, one of her furry friends, or furry tails. I think they're called furry tails. And I thought she was cute. And this one, was thinking of how when I do paper crafting, I like to run the ribbon on the border sometimes. So I went ahead and did it on here, and I stitched them on so then when I sewed it together, these stayed attached, and then all I had to do was add the ribbon on the outside to complete it. So that was a fun finish. And I like that the iridescent ribbon, it catches when the Christmas tree lights are sparkling on it. So it gives that nice effect when you're looking at your Christmas tree. And there's the back. All right, next up is another little mini ornament from a swap. Here it is. It's a perforated paper one as well. And she didn't close the back, but that's okay. I still think it's cute. When you're in the swaps, you never know what you get, but when you look back on them, you really do treasure them no matter what they look like or how they finished them. Now these next ones, I belonged to a Ornament a Month club, I wanna say 2 years ago, might be longer. It was Annie B's Ornaments, and I think you can order them now. I think you can order the charts now, but at the time you got the entire fabric and the pattern to stitch them. Of course, you had to supply your own floss. So I tried to finish the ones that I completed already in the same manner. So here's one. I love the little car. It says Tree Farm. And you also got the little buttons for the corners. And all right, and here's the next one. Oh, they're from 2019. How do I know? because the snowman's body says so. So there's that one. And these ones, all I did was I took a wreath and I cut off a couple of the wreath greenery and then glued them on before the bow. And then I added the bow after with the little bell in the center. And it did come with these cute little buttons. You can see they're cardinals. And then here's another one. Came with red buttons. Says Noel. I love the buffalo check. Everything in my house is decorated that way. So when I saw these in 2019, I had to have them. And this one's a hot cocoa for 25 cents. Can you imagine buying one nowadays at 25 cents? I don't know if that's even possible. Those are all that I've done. And I believe there was a set of 12. And in 2 of the patterns, you got a bonus chart. But I've not finished them. I hope to eventually have them all finished. I did like Vonna said, and I did pre-cut the fabric, the rickrack, the ribbons, and the bells, and I put them in a baggie, and I pre-cut them so that way when I do eventually finish stitching the pieces, since all the fabric's the same, because it came with them, then I can fully finish them exactly the same. That was a great tip. So if you haven't seen that, it's a good idea that if you're doing a set and you don't think that you're going to get them all done, that you pre-cut your finishing parts to match if you want them to be a complete set. All right, so here are a couple other ornaments that were given to me. This is a Lucy Riggs. It says Let It Snow. They did like a quilted circle, I believe. Yeah. And then this one is a Precious Moments, also a quilted finish. It's cute. You could tell how we get nervous about our circles. Like if I hold it back here, it doesn't look so bad. So on the tree, it looks fine. But then you get up closer, you're like, ooh, that's a little oblongish. Makes you want to add some kind of trim on the edge, but these were gifts, so I will leave them the way they are. And they mean a lot to me. I love handmade gifts. I think that's the best gift to ever get. Then this is another one that was gifted to me, finished a different way. Trying to pull off some of the fuzz from the flocked tree that got on it from last year. But they stitched it on a little piece of Aida, and then they fringed the edges, and then they mounted it right onto a piece of felt. And then you can see that when they did the hand stitching on the front, it was to help hold the felt on the back. And then there was no holder, so I just used a little hook at the time and hooked it right through the felt. And so this is how I hang it each year. But I thought that was cute. It's a little stitching bear. All right. Then I got this one from somebody. They stitched it in a hard finish and then used the cord and go around, and then they dangled the end. So that's a different kind of finish too that you could do. Little snowman. I've never stitched on red, have you? I've thought about it. I just never got around to doing it. This one is a perforated paper one. I don't think I have a hanger for it. Must have fallen off. But it says Christmas tree. And there's some Kreinik in it. And you can see that after they cut it out, they cut the felt with pinking shears. That was a good idea. So it doesn't fray, and it holds its shape, and it pulls the green in the color of the pattern. All right. And this one was made by somebody named Deb. Her name's Debbie. Yeah, Debbie. And she made me a cherished teddy. And there's the back. And what she did was she took 2 pieces of Aida cloth. So she stitched the Aida on, and then she took a piece another piece and stitched her name and the year, and then sewed them together and fringed them up. So that made it a little bit more durable. It's not as flimsy, but makes a cute finish. All right. Then I think this is the last one someone made for me. There is this little bear on a rocking horse. and it feels very tight, like they use that heat bond, and so it's very thick. They attach this to the fabric, but the fabric feels like they use 2 pieces of fabric and heat bond in the middle. All right, and I think the rest are mine. So this is another one of the Merry Making Minis by Heart and Hand. It's a little tree, and I liked it because it had this cute little owl at the top. Thought that was cute. One year my classroom was decorated in all owls, which my students loved. So that whole year, everything that we did or any event, somebody would bring me an owl. So that's why I stitched this one, because it reminded me of that. I included some beads on the tree. I believe the ornament pattern comes with a baggie of beads. And then there's Smyrna's in it. And then I just did on some candy cane looking fabric. And then this is a pic from Michael's. All right. Then this is Cherished Teddies of the Month, December. It's got red glitter on it. And here it is. I love this. I know that Cherished Teddies are not popular now, but when I see it, I just think it's so cute. And that's my finish. And then the next one, I think it's also, I think they're Heart and Hand also. There's this one, Oh Be Joyful. Oops, dropped it. And there we go. And this is some extra finishing ribbons and things that I picked up from my husband's cousin. And then it came with a couple of these little snowflake buttons that you could sew on at the end. And then this one is also from there, and it's called Ho 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 Holiday. A little reindeer. I think he's cute. He reminds me of my students. Sometimes at Christmas we make a Christmas card with their thumbprint, and we make thumbprint reindeers. And this one reminds me of that. And then my last one, oh my goodness, I can't believe I got to the end. This one is a hands-on design one. Comes from their Cranberry Christmas chart. I've only stitched one, but this year I'd like to add another one. There's so many in that chart. They're so pretty. So here is the only one I've done, Mary. And I love these. And I found these little picks at Hobby Lobby that look just like cranberries. So that's why I got them. I thought it went well. And then I used this. This ribbon is actually some, it's some, I don't know if you call it petite crochet ribbon. And it came from Stampin' Up. Being a Stampin' Up demonstrator for so many years, I have a lot of ribbons and things left. And this came out one year, and I used it a lot. I just think it's so pretty. And then that's what I used to make the hanger as well. And then just the little bottom. I thought just on the bottom made like a little dress. Thought it was cute. So those are my ornaments. So the next time you see them, they'll be over here on my tree. But I thought I'd share them with you. If by any chance any of them came through and they resonated with you, or you would like to know more details about it, I'd be happy to look it up. But I hope you're having a good time. If you haven't decorated yet, I hope when you do that you can set the mood and have a good time like we have. And I'll be back in probably a week to tell you all about the Jingle Ball and my experience with that. And then whatever I'm doing, we're going back to work tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to seeing my cute little kinders and working on our nutcracker. So until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. And I'd like you to be kind and creative and courageous and confident. And I know I did that in the wrong order, but that's all right. You get the message. Have a great week. I'll see you later. Bye.